So thank you so much, everybody, for having me here. I really appreciate it. It's so nice to be back in Israel, I can't tell you. I might not be Jewish, but certainly this definitely feels like a kind of home to me as well. So I'm grateful for the hospitality and I'm grateful for the kindness, I guess, is what we've learnt. And so it turned out that after I passed out of Sandhurst, instead of joining my regiment, I was medically discharged from the career that I was determined to follow. However, in my wisdom now, as an older and wiser person, I do see that an epileptic with a semi-automatic weapon may not be the best idea. Okay, I get it. They may have had a point. And so I think what happened was I choose to fight for my country now in a different way. And I do that, oh, thank you. Thank you. And I do that by going and showing people the truths of my country. Because as much as they want to throw labels at me and call me an Islamophobe, a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, whatever label, it doesn't really matter. You know, I go to a place where I say, okay, I'll accept that label if you will now listen to what I'm saying. Call me what you want. I really don't mind. But now let me show you this. And I found that that is one of the ways that we can break through the leftist-controlled narratives of our countries, and it's really important to me. And in a way, that's why they don't want you to see Homeland either. And I tell you, you will see that documentary. The link is live. They don't know about it. I'm pushing it out tomorrow. They don't want you to see it because it tells the truths of Jewish families in Western Europe who are now forced from their homes by the Islamists who control the suburbs and the streets of the cities where we live. There are beautiful people who were supposed to be in Ra'anana tonight that contributed to that documentary. Lovely Jewish families from Paris, some of whom received letters straight to their homes, 18 families, saying, we know you're Jewish, we will kill you, get out. And the police came and told them, there's nothing we can do, you should leave. Those are Jewish families in Paris now. There's a lady, she was thrown from her balcony. You may have heard about her in Paris, remember? Stabbed, thrown from her balcony. And she survived the Veldiv roundup. She survived the Holocaust, but she could not survive Paris in 2018. And these are the truths of the people that I bring in the Homelands documentary. And for my money, that's why they don't want anybody to see it. Because these are the truths of which we cannot speak. And we're not alone there either. My Jewish friends are not alone, because it's the same for me too. And for other British Christian families, or whatever religion you may say you are. We are looking for a way out. There is a silent exodus underway in Western Europe. The takeover of my country is all but complete, and my country will fall. We're looking to Poland, we're looking to Hungary, and I spent much of my time here with lovely individuals working with Aliyah, explaining that my heart breaks because I don't have an Israel. To which the rabbi and others said, come, we'll look after you anyway. So I was always kind of excited by that. But we are looking for a new place to call home, because it's not safe where I live anymore, and I am very quickly becoming a minority in my own country. White Brits are a minority in London. Christians are a minority in Birmingham, in Bradford, in Luton, in Leicester, in Manchester. I could go on. We just had an election a couple of days ago. It was won by Labour, but it wasn't really won by Labour. It was won by a white lady who was a front for the majority Pakistani Muslim voting bloc, who voted by postal ballot. They had a gentleman there who is a convicted vote fraudster running the campaign. And on the election night, he was the one celebrating. My very big fear for the UK is that Jeremy Corbyn and Labour will get into power. They will be in Downing Street. And that Labour MP, in order to get the votes of the majority Pakistani Muslim population that she represents, she tweeted something anti-Israel. She said it was a mistake. Of course, it wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate signing to her voting bloc that they should support her. And that's what we face in the UK. In Birmingham, Muslim births outnumber births to any other religion. If you bump into a child in Birmingham, they are more likely to be a Muslim child than any other religion. In London, I do not believe it is now electorally possible for anything other than a Muslim mayor to be elected, because the boroughs of London, of which there are 5, are majority Muslim. Tower Hamlets, majority Muslim, followed by the second most densely packed population in Newham, majority Muslim. And I say this to you because the takeover is systematic. There are 3 simple steps to the takeover. 1, move in densely packed Muslim family populations. So where one white family or British family or ethnically local family used to live, now 5 Muslim families live. They all move out, and the Muslim families are densely packed. Then you build mosques. You facilitate the population. Funding flows in. And now, instead of people voting according to policies or principles, you have people voting according to their religion. The imam dictates who you'll be voting for. Or in the case of the recent election that I covered last week, people hand over their postal ballots in exchange for cash, and the guys from the mosque collect them up and fill them in for them. Now you have political Islam, people voting according to the mosque. And from there, of course, funding, power, all goes to the Muslim community. I'll give you an example of London, where my little friend, the nipple height, sorry gentlemen, Muslim mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he is literally this high, which is insulting to me, and I'm in flats. He has a Muslim housing association. He has a Muslim police association. He threw a Muslim party for Eid in Trafalgar Square, and the call to prayer was boomed out across Trafalgar Square under Nelson's column. And I can tell you, stuff like that gives me the heebie-jeebies any day of the week. Not through any disrespect to another religion, but just because those places really mean something to a British person. And it's almost like I'm watching my country fall in front of my eyes, and yet nobody else will talk about it. Because if you talk about it, you lose everything. One of the great things about losing everything is it is actually very freeing. When there's nothing else they can take from you, you are very free to speak your mind. And so that, in a way, is a positive of my situation. First of all, of course, they come for your jobs. So I used to have a column on a national newspaper. I worked for The Sun, and then I worked for Mail Online for 2 years. I was kind of known as a face of BBC or ITV. They took those jobs. They lobby the advertisers, and they remove your posts when you stop saying the things you're supposed to say and start saying how you really feel. Yeah, like in Israel, like here. Then they came for my children. I have 3 children. They are 15, 14, and 10. It's why I like to be away a lot on the road. And 2 girls and a boy. And they report them to social services. I've had 4 cases of social services at my door for reported welfare incidents for my children. And they hope that by reporting me as a bad mother, they will take my children and silence me that way. Then they come for your children. Then they came for my home. So they have lawfare, you know, where you can use litigation to silence someone by repeated cases against you that you're supposed to settle, because that's how it works. I had 12 at one point cases, law cases lined up against me for things I may have said or perceived harm. And because I refused to settle, because I don't believe in lawfare or litigation that's against you to silence you, they took my family home. So a couple of years ago, we moved out of the family home, and I went into proceedings to try and protect the remainder of what my family had. And then they came for my head. So 2 jihadis in the UK, as a wedding present, the female wanted my head because she said I was the biggest bitch in Britain. Yeah, you better believe it, sister. Yes, I am. And so she and her jihadi husband, future husband, made a plan to behead me. They brought a hunting, it's all online. The newspapers actually reported this because for them it was a good news story.
And Jimmy's happy.
They bought a dummy, like a plastic shop dummy, like a model, and a hunting knife, and they practiced at home. And then in the middle of the night in my home, which is way out in the countryside, where I keep my husband and my children and my parents, who are going to come to live with me eventually, because I will take care of my parents. And a group of men arrived, all dressed in black, and they fitted my home up with alarms and emergency devices. So they rigged my phone up to the local police station, such that if I picked up my phone, even if I couldn't speak, police cars would come. They put up at the top of my house on the 3rd floor a panic box, a black box, and they told me if a jihadi should come through your door, run to the top of your house, shake the panic box, and the police squads would come. My children live on the 2nd floor. I tell you, there's no way I'm going to the 3rd floor when my children are on the 2nd floor, not ever. And then they left and they told me not to worry.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, the 2 jihadis, whatever their names were, and or something like that, they were found guilty, actually, and locked up and put in prison, and they are in prison as we speak. So hooray for the British forces for that, thank God. But the state wasn't quite finished with me yet. For the sin of speaking our truths, for standing up for my country, for wanting to put British people first, my government, the British government, commissioned a play. Banners went up all over the place, on buses, big posters. Keep running, sweetie, don't fall in the pool. And it was a play commissioned by the government called The Assassination of Katie Hopkins. So my point is, and I feel not sorry for myself one jot, I accept all of this, and I accept it without any sense of, I have no sense of ill will towards anyone for any of it. All I say is that it is actually a very freeing thing. Because what frustrates them more than anything is if they take all that from you and yet you still speak. You will not be quiet. I will not be silent. And one of the glorious things is about the left and the way that they push down on our side of the seesaw, you know, they try and shut us up, is that what actually happens is the other side of the seesaw pops up and we find each other. And our voices grow louder and louder. I say to the left, you are Frankenstein, and I am your monster. And you created me, and I will shout in your face with our truths until we are heard. And I am not going away. You will not get me yet. All of those white farmers, all of them big 6'8", 7'2" men who have lived through horrors none of us would wish to ever see in our lifetime, they say, I will not leave my land. They say, it could be tonight that it's my night, but I accept that if that's God's way. They say, I will die in my boots for the love of my land. And I think that is the ultimate in defiance. That is to say, my father turned this bushveld into this fertile soil, and I will not leave it, and even if you kill me, this land will still be mine. And I feel that a lot here in Israel. I feel it with some people in the UK as well. There is a sense that no matter what, we will carry on the fight for our land, even when we are overrun. And those two things are fundamental to who we are. And I think it matters to South Africans to know that you're here. It matters to the people in Europe who are awake, who are able to see, and who are fighting for us, to know that we are all in this together. You know, I like to think of us like spiders on a web. And that web is kind of invisible, but the strings that join us together are so strong. And when one of us moves or we feel each other, we know we're there and we know we're all together in the same cause. And I think one of the really uplifting things for us here in Israel and the UK is that we have Trump. And we will have Trump in 2020. And I will make sure of it. I'm going over to his birthday. Next week I leave here, go back to the UK, then I go to America to take Homelands to America so that Americans can hear the stories of Jewish families being persecuted in Western Europe. And I get to go to Trump's birthday party at Trump International and speak to the good man. So we will say thank you, thank you, thank you. I also, I know that you guys hopefully one day are going to line me up to meet Bibi, because he is going to be my fourth husband. So, you know, people talk about jihadis. We had returning jihadis in the UK. We took back 326 of them because we're so accommodating and kind. The thing with returning jihadis, of course, is that if you're a jihadi, you're supposed to go and blow yourself up, aren't you? You're supposed to blow yourself up to get 72 virgins, which is more than you'll find in Tel Aviv on a good day. But actually, you didn't do that, did you? You're not really a returning jihadi, are you? You're just a bit of a shit jihadi. Just a bit shit at your job. And if you're returning, you probably want to end it all and end your life, but you can't because you're a shit jihadi. And I think this is where we've got to. We also have, interestingly, to your point about the LGBT versus Muslim problem with identity that the left have right now. So earlier this week, before I went to the election, before I came here, I was in a place called, well, it was a Birmingham school. It's called Anderton Park Primary. And at Anderton Park Primary, it's the second school now in Birmingham. Of course, Birmingham is majority Muslim. At this particular primary school, 98% of the parents are Muslim. And guess what? They no longer want tolerance classes taught at primary school. They no longer want any discussion of any kind about anything to do with LGBT. They no longer want the little book that teaches children that these two daddy penguins raised a penguin chick, because of that, that's hugely offensive if you're a Muslim. There's also a book where Justin wants to become a mermaid, and they don't like that much either. And so for 7 weeks, the Muslim majority parents have protested outside the school, prevented any child going to school classes until they stop the LGBTQ tolerance classes being taught in school. And they've already had success. One school has stopped the lessons, pulled the books, stopped the classes. This school will do the same, mark my words. The Labour MP, guess what he just did? Came out in support of the Muslim parents. So the interesting thing here is when identity politics starts to eat itself and the lizard starts to eat its own tail. And the left are like, hold on, we need the LGBTQ vote because we love being tolerant and diverse, but hold on, there's more Muslims than there ever were before, and we definitely need their vote. So what do we do? And they just don't know which one to support. And they're caught between the two, and they're having to make a choice, and they're choosing the Muslim community. And in a way, when I think to people like lovely Doron Kramer, who spoke to me and said, we need to treat every day like September the 1st, 1939, in a way I can see the regression happening as well for the LGBTQ community. Because you start pulling tolerance classes out of school, you start teaching, which is what they're chanting, it's not okay to be gay. And how far is the UK from regressing to a point where it's illegal to be homosexual? I don't think we're that far away. So I want to leave you by saying thank you so much for listening to me. There's a couple, Monique and her husband. And when I was interviewing so many families here, actually here in Israel this was, they've moved here because they had to escape Paris. She was called a dirty Jew in the street too many times. And they escaped to Israel. They bought a flat here. Not only did they buy a flat here, they bought an apartment for their daughters because they so hope that their daughters and their grandchildren will come. And their daughters tell their mother, they know that it's not a question of if, but when. And Monique tells them to keep a suitcase by the door in Paris in 2019. And Monique said to me, you know, the optimists the pessimists ended up in LA with a pool, and the optimists ended up in Auschwitz. And right now we can't afford to be optimistic in Western Europe. And so I'll leave you with Monique's words because I think they're the most touching. But in the interim, I wanted to say to you that I'm not going anywhere. I will die in my boots for the love of my land, and I stand with Israel. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.